Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we're back again for another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And today we have one of my favorite women. They're all my favorite women. But today is Mia Moran, and she's a productivity coach, the creator of the flow planning empire, and it is an empire. She's the host of the PlanSimple Podcast, publisher of Pause Magazine, and the author of the best-selling book Plan Simple Meals, as well as the Flow Planner. She's a mom of three who has struck her perfect balance between work, family, and her well-being. She supports female entrepreneurs balance work, wellness, family, and self in midlife, and follow through on what matters most to them, especially when life throws obstacles their way. And we know that that's a recurring theme. Mia
Really?
envisions a world where women don't have to choose between meaningful work, motherhood, and their health. She's living proof that it's possible. So, welcome, Mia.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I always love to spend some time with you and love to share you with people. So if you are listening live, put in some comments. If you're listening on the watching or listening on the replay, tag us in comments and we'll come back and keep the conversation going. But for now, we're just going to dive in and start with a question, and these conversations take on a life of their own. So what I want to start with is you have done all kinds of things through the years. um, how did you shift your life and your business when you transitioned from being a mom with three at home to a grown and flown mom?
Got it. So you meaning like as they've grown up or as I
As they've
switched
grown up and
businesses?
left.
Yeah, got it. So it's interesting because that really caught me, I'm not going to lie, by surprise. So it's because I think like when they're little, and I feel like I'm so lucky because I know a lot of entrepreneurs have the story of being in corporate and then at some point becoming an entrepreneur. That is, I have always been an entrepreneur. So I think I had a job for like a year and a half after college, and then I opened a graphic design studio. So I did switch careers, but I've always been an entrepreneur for all intents and
Mhm.
purposes. So my kids were born into my design studio. And so I've always so I've always been able to put them first in that sense. I literally like had a babysitter come bring them to be nursed when they were little. And I could always be at school pickup and all those things. So I never had that transition, which maybe made it harder on the other side. And just to be clear, I still have one home.
Yeah.
Sometimes like, mom, like, could you please
I'm still here.
just like leave me alone? Because like,
Yeah, but she's
we
leaving
all,
soon, right?
yeah, she has 2 more years, but she's third, so she didn't get a lot of attention when they were little, and
Yeah.
now it's like all eyes on her, and she's like not loving that. Um, but I think the biggest thing was I didn't and this is the truth about so many different areas of life and why I'm so passionate about helping women plan and follow through, is I think often we forget what actually takes time. So we spend so
Yeah.
much time on like, I'm going to launch this, and this takes this step, and I'm going to get healthy in this way, and that means I have to do this, and this. But like when my kids went away to college, I cried for like 3 months every day, and that took time and energy. And I think we forget like that, like there's pieces of like mourning, just needing space and needing space for transition. And that like, even if like I'm on the other side of it, like I'm loving life right now. I love the free time. I love having adult children. I love the
Mhm.
coming and going. Like I love all of it. It was a really big transition at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
And even though it technically gave me more time, which is, definitely what I was wishing for some days when they were little, it's a shift. It's a shift in identity. It's a shift in how you manage your energy, what's possible when. And it took some time, energy, effort to really navigate that in a way that made sense. And so I think that's the most important piece for me of it, was that like the emotional piece of things takes time, and I feel like that's a big emotional situation in a lot of our lives, and it doesn't stop.
No,
Like,
it
so I
doesn't.
was like, oh, it's just the first time they go away,
No,
but it's
no.
like then they come home and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and then they come home and it's different when they come home. Right? And so you have to
Yeah.
get used to that. And then they leave again and you're like, oh, and it's like, so it's kind of like this constant thing that needs space. And it's just very different though when they're little.
It is. I was okay when my son went to college. He also went like he was a COVID graduate, so we
Mhm.
had had enough of each other by the time he was ready to go. And, I was okay with him going, but when he graduated and he'd been out of the house for 4 years already, but when he graduated and moved to, like, his post-college apartment, for me, that was like, "Oh, this is real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
real."
Yeah. And the
And
other interesting part about that was brought, like, which I sort of was brought to think about by someone I was interviewing about the health behind the menopause time, is that like our kids often at this time, it's like a big identity shift for them
yeah,
to leave and go to college and then leave and
yeah,
figure out what they're going to do for the rest of their life. So pretty much like, starting really at 16 probably to 30, they're figuring out their place in the world.
yeah,
And as women at the same time, our hormones are doing something pretty crazy. I
yeah,
feel like a lot of women are also I notice in my own clients that, at the same time that like spouses are often thinking about retirement, women are coming into like their deepest, most
yes.
like expressive versions of their purposes, like that have been dormant for many years. And like, so it's like a big deal that all this is sort of conspiring at the same time. And it just takes a different level of attentiveness.
Yeah, it definitely does, and I notice it too in these conversations is that, people call this reinvention, but it's not reinvention, it's we have the space to remember who we were
Yeah.
and,
I
to
love the
remember
word
the
remembering these days.
uh,
It's so
and
good. Yeah.
and just to remember the parts that we put down when we were, like, having Batman birthday parties
Yeah. But it's interesting.
and not
It's
leaving a
kind of
kid at
like,
karate.
well, and it's interesting because it's kind of like we put them down. And so there are these pieces we're picking back up. But I also like, we have so much more wisdom, like with them. Like, so it's like we put these things down, but now we get to pick them up in this like whole other way. And to me, that's the cool part.
And to choose, like, they don't
Yeah.
all need to be picked up.
Yeah, exactly. Some can definitely be left. For sure.
And that in itself is its own brand of wisdom.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your new venture, your Pause magazine, which is, oh my goodness, like everything that you create is amazing because you have this, incredible graphic design background. But this magazine is like, you know, this could be up there with Interview magazine. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely
Oh, thank
gorgeous.
you. Yeah, so I mean, as a project, so it's interesting because it's a great example of what we were just talking about, remembering, right? So over the past 10 years, I feel like one of my biggest learning lessons is really about what you're probably experiencing in the real 50 over 50, which is just how incredible women are,
Yeah.
and especially incredible women. And, a lot of that, like us really honoring each other, got really lost, I feel like, in the patriarchy. And
Yeah.
so to me, like that has been the coolest part of being an entrepreneur, connecting with other entrepreneurs. And I didn't like, I'm such an introvert, to be honest. And that showed up as shyness when I was like in normal school. I feel like in art school, I started to come out of my shell a little bit. And then, as a coach, people don't always think of me as shy, but I'm definitely an introvert. And I forgot so me going into like groups or being group oriented wasn't it wasn't like the part of my identity that I most picked up on, throughout my life. But part of like my human design, my astrology, like just who I am, is that I'm a really good connector. Like I'm a really good matchmaker. Like when people introduce themselves to me, like I have this like web in my head that's like, oh, they need to meet them, and she needs to meet her, and like, oh my god, they're gonna be fast best friends. Like it's just how my brain thinks. Like I don't
Mhm.
do it on purpose, and I never used to act on it.
Yeah.
And somewhere, like, I don't know, a little bit pre-pandemic, I was like, oh my God, I need to like utilize this. A good friend of mine had been telling me I should do a summit forever. So I did it. And I'd done a few things that sort of like act as summits, but I felt really strongly that I needed to like revolutionize, or not revolutionize, but I just needed to like switch the model a little bit. And I needed to really focus on the rising tide part and women supporting women, and like what it really looked like to know this body of women. And so that's been like a really important part of just my business plan, I guess, over the last 6 years. But the truth is, and this is where like the 50-year-old wisdom comes in, the truth is that I went to design school and I love making like beautiful pages.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the first thing I ever did when I switched over sort of into more this realm from owning a design company is like, and one of the things that gave me the sign that I needed to leave that was I created a food magazine, because it was like pre-Pinterest, pre-Instagram, pre all the pretty food pictures we see today. And I had gotten healthy and I just didn't have a business plan for it. So I started it and it became a very expensive habit very quickly. So fast forward 10 years, I realized that the piece of like connecting women was super important to me, but the act of showing up and making videos and like, you know, chasing people for videos and whatnot was just not in, like, that just didn't feel like it was in my wheelhouse right now. And so I was like, but the same thing could work with a magazine. so it felt like this like really full circle moment. And I really feel like one of the best things that we over 50 women have, and I say that as somebody very newly over 50, but one of the things I think we have is this ability to pause. Yeah. And it's like the whole world's moving fast and we remember, like, whether it's on purpose or because our bodies are telling us we have to, like, but we have this ability to just like stop and center ourselves and take the pause. And I just think it's a skill that we can pass to those who don't know it yet. And there's so many versions of it, right? And there's so many stories about moments of pause. And I just wanted to like get those out into the world.
Yeah, I think we come to realize that we have evidence of all of the things that we've actually survived or gotten through that we thought were like the end of the world, and they really weren't the end of the world.
Oh my God, I was talking the other day. Do you remember Y2K? Like, we thought that like the whole internet was going to go down.
Oh my God. I worked in a law firm. I worked in the
I know, my husband was in IT and I was like, do you remember? Like, we literally thought everything was going to stop on January 1st and it just
I was in a conference room. I was in a conference room. Okay. And we were all sitting around the table and we had been working on this for 2 years. And, you know, the clock struck midnight and we're all sitting there and we're looking at each other like complete idiots, because the one thing that nobody planned for was, what if nothing happens?
Right? Oh my gosh.
So and where I worked was like around the corner from Times Square. So like everyone's in Times Square doing the whole, you know, dropping the ball thing. And we just sat there for about a half an hour and looked at each other. And then we just left and we like quietly walked through Times Square, like with all the remnants and like the cleaning people were there. It was just one of the most surreal New York City moments that you could imagine.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. So crazy. I love that wasn't even like part of the scenario. Like, what if something happens? Like, our brains always go to like worst case.
Oh my God, they threw millions of dollars at this. This is a massive global law firm with, you know, in 16 countries and time zones and currencies and every little thing that we looked at, and nobody considered what if nothing happens.
Yeah. Well, no, that's so interesting, because like the other thing about pause that I almost hate explaining it this way, but I think if we all look back, we can probably find this. But, you know, there's moments where we want something, you know, really big or really different or whatever, right? And because our mind doesn't really understand time, oftentimes we just like really start hustling toward that thing. And if I look back in lives of many people I respect, and you really listen to the stories, it's really the times that they slowed down that all of a sudden things really quickened up. So I don't think any of us should do it for that reason. But if we can start to believe in the pause, in rest, in, not overworking, in sleeping, all the things, then I just think we're going to feel more fulfilled at the end of the day and like actually do the things that matter. And it doesn't really make sense, but it's just a concept I love.
Well, you have the space to actually think about something.
Yeah.
When you're constantly on that hamster wheel, your brain isn't stopping long enough to like consider that thing that's back here that
Yes.
hasn't moved up yet,
Yes, exactly.
And we have to give it that pause, that space. Otherwise, we're not making decisions. We're almost operating like AI, and we're just going for the
Yeah.
next available
Yeah.
word, because that's really what
Right.
it is. We're not thinking anymore. We stop thinking, and
Yeah.
and that's not a good way to operate.
No.
And I think that's what
Actually,
it is.
that's such a great insight into AI, because if we use AI to actually create more time to think and to use it in new ways, that makes for such a better case
That's how I
than I
use it.
think the way that a lot of people
Yeah.
think that they should use it,
Yeah, most people think to use it, I can do more faster, and
Yeah.
I use it as I use it to challenge myself to do more better.
Yeah, I love that. So good.
Well, who knows? There could be an article written about that
I know.
pretty
I'm just thinking, that's it, Donna. That's critical. My current thoughts. We both got it. So there it is. We decided mid-interview.
So now that you have turned over to the other side of being 50, because you are newly minted, and you are embracing the pause and sharing this all over, and have your whole little flow empire flowing away. Which let's talk about that for a minute. Like, how many different components are there to this flow empire you have?
Well, the way I actually think about it, it's funny that you call it an empire, but the way I think about it is that we actually have one primary thing we do, which is this pretty well priced year-long program where we're really committed to helping women pause long enough actually to hear their thoughts, make plans for them, and then really hold their hands while they flow through. So that's really what we do. We have I don't sell a lot of things. That's really all that I ever sell. And so we sell a planner, but at a very low cost. So for me, everything is really leading into that. I designed a planner because I wanted to really think through how we organize our brain around time, and how we could really shift to leading with the feminine first. So that's why we created the planner, and then the magazine and summits, and we have a big event every year called Make December Matter. All of those are really, I just want to give as much as I can, and then those people who really raise their hand and are I definitely want more support can come into the program. So that's kind of how I think about the empire, and things come and go. I mean, I don't think I want a huge team. So we have a small team. We have a small team, and I get to stay as in the role as coach with a small team. When I had a design company, we grew big enough that I couldn't design anymore. And so I have that reference to know that I still definitely always want to coach, even if I'm thinking of big business ideas. So I really think about that sort of as we're growing and evolving, and what I need to lean into and what I need to let go of. So yeah, that's sort of, and also I know that I have the advantage that I'm a designer by trade, and it's it's an advantage and a disadvantage, because it means that I can make a lot of things really quickly, but it also means that I put myself into the role of making them sometimes when I probably shouldn't. So yeah, that's so I think of it like we have this one thing, and it's actually interesting because turning 50 was a big deal. But as we're doing this interview, I'm about to have brain surgery. And that is actually feeling like a bigger deal to my system, and to the flow, and to how I think about all this, because I don't think I just love what I do. So it's the bio that you read at the very beginning is definitely true. Like, I feel balanced, and if I don't, I know how to get back to balance. Like, I really do feel like I know how, like, it's been every step of the way, like perimenopause, like shifted how I thought about health, but I knew how to like get back into the thinking. My kids leaving shifted me out of like my role as mother and my identity around that, but I was able to shift back in. So there's like always this, like, to me, balance is less of like everything is hunky dory, and I'm just on this, like, it's like I'm on a tightrope, and it's an active thing of finding balance. So that feels very true. But this thing in terms of the empire and really needing to take 3 weeks off really has rocked my world.
Yeah.
So, and my team, like literally I have one person who's been on my team probably for, I don't know, maybe even close to 10 years. She's been there since the book. And she was like, I'm so proud. Like, thank goodness you're doing this. Like, you're letting us do our job, but I can really see how it's possible. I'm leaving to go heal, or to go get surgery and then go heal. And everything is really taken care of. It doesn't, like, and that feels really cool, even with a small team.
Yeah. And even if like something slips, it's not going to be anything
Exactly.
earth shattering,
Exactly. So it's really cool to be able to let go, which maybe it took till 50 to get there. I don't know.
That's why you weren't scheduled for this surgery a couple of months ago.
Yeah, right.
But that's got to be a very comforting place to be in,
Yeah.
and let you focus on your healing and dealing with the whole medical piece of this, which is a whole other part of dealing,
But it also feels very synonymous to me with aging. It's just, I don't think I could like pinpoint it to aging as well as I'm able to pinpoint it to the surgery, which is just like the ability to really understand what matters most and really only focus there, which definitely was not the story for me in my 30s, probably even early 40s, and I can see how cool that is. Like, I literally don't even understand. I can't even comprehend when people tell me that ageism exists in corporate America, because I'm like, how could that even be possible? We're so smart.
But I spent 25 years in those trenches, and I believe that the problem is there is a middle layer of management that it's their job to make sure that things don't work properly, because that's their security.
Yes. Oh God, that's hysterical. I really think my husband's experiencing that right now. I love the way that you say that.
But it's I look at it from, I mean, even like on like, I've been kind of like, brought in as, like, I like to call it the WordPress plugin on bigger teams to kind of help with very specific stuff over the years, and to some like big companies. And you would think that everything would be very operational and everything is really organized. It's a mess. It's a hot mess, and I have to literally like sit on my hands and bite my tongue to just go, you just need to move this over there and look at that,
I know, right?
it'll work.
I swear, if we could run the world, come on, get the whole like real 50 over 50 team, we'd make a whole new planet.
When I used to work my last couple of years in corporate, my patience was running thin, and I used to go to meetings with a magic 8 ball, because nobody would be accountable to anything and nobody would make a decision. So I would ask the magic 8 ball, or I would get up and I would go to the person that could make a decision and say, hey, we're in this meeting, it's going nowhere. Do you want this or do you want this? And then I would come back into the meeting and say,
oh my God,
like, John wants this. How do you know? I asked him, you spoke to him? I said, yeah, and his wife and his dog are fine,
Oh
They're people. It's his business. Like, don't you think he wants us making good decisions on his behalf? Let's not just sit here and wonder what he might want.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. So good.
Yeah, I was done by then. Now I'm totally unemployable.
Yeah. I've always been there. Yep.
But so now what are you gonna do when you come back? How do you envision you're coming back from these 3 weeks? Are
Yeah,
you
so I'm
gonna ease
taking a
yourself
couple
back
weeks just
in?
like well, I'm doing a couple weeks just like totally off, like
Mhm,
literally my challenge, and this is a challenge. So like I tell it's funny, I was just recording a podcast episode about this, but like I think it's just as important to plan for vacation weeks or this kind of
mhm,
week as it is a normal week. Like it looks different how we feel it, but like I'm literally wrote a post-it on my bedside table. Like you don't need your computer. Like, just put it away, Mia. Like put it under the thing. There's no need. Like it's taken care of and you get to
mhm,
be digital free for these times. So what I did was I ended up breaking it down. So like if I was looking at my time, I probably spend a third of my time on what I call Flow 365ers because our program is called Flow 365. So I probably spend a third of my time, coaching and supporting women to follow through. And then I spend 2/3 of my time on or another third of my time on sort of more the like magazine events we're
mhm,
doing, whatever that is. And then a third of my time on sort of in sales and marketing bucket or like,
mhm,
yeah, I would say that. And so I'm just not going to come back to the other two buckets right away. So I'm going to first come back to the third that's just serving our people. And then when I feel ready, I'm going to come back. We have a magazine. We do a magazine coming out at the beginning of September. So I'll come back for that. And then I'll add in the third piece. And so it really was this it really helped me see like where
mhm,
we're putting time and,
mhm.
you know, how to unfold that in a way that was really, you know, worked for me. And I will say that I have no idea what this is going to be like. It's
Mhm,
interesting. I was telling someone this morning because I had a lot of projections about 50 and turning 50 and what it was like on the other side. So I had this idea of what I thought it was supposed to be like, whatever. I don't know if it's going to be like that or not. But really, this surgery, I have literally no idea. Like, no doctor seems to be able to tell me what it will be like on the other side. Like I have no
You
idea. And
you
so that
you will
piece is
yeah,
very interesting.
you will not know because
Yeah.
is this your first, like, significant health?
That's like planned. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
broken bones and to get them put back
yeah.
together. But yeah.
Um, there's a piece of surrender to your
Yeah.
body,
Absolutely.
and, I challenged that, and that was not my best decision.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a surrender involved, and you need to let your body take
Yeah.
take the lead. Like when you're pregnant, there's a point of your pregnancy when you realize you're not driving anymore, right? Like there's
Yeah.
some being inside of you that has the controls. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. You just have to kind of step away and whatever will be, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And it feels like
it's
that actually.
yeah.
It literally feels like a birth. I'm literally nesting today. Like I've been
Mhm.
cleaning, like I just want my whole room where I'm healing, like feng shuied. Like I've been doing all the things. It's very interesting behavior on my part. But yeah, it's been a surrender. And I feel at the same time, I feel as well planned as I can be.
Yeah, because there's only so much you can plan for.
Yeah, exactly.
And the rest is you just have to kind of let it take its course, and, um, I struggled with trying to control everything with
Yep.
my health from the beginning because I was just like, "I'm gonna beat the shit out of this, and it's gonna go
Yeah.
away," and now we're 6 years later, and it's not going away.
Yeah.
So, you just have to kind of come to terms with it that there's things happening in your body as you age that are not things that you can tell what to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Literally.
Oh, well, we will all be thinking of you and wishing you
Oh,
good
thank you.
wishes, and, I love this is the last thing that you're doing before you
I know it's so fun. It's a celebration.
We're here celebrating your magnificent brain, and, one last question for you,
Yeah.
because I am not a productivity person. I just kinda go with the flow with all of that, but the way you do it is different. The way you
Mm.
approach productivity, the way that you speak about productivity, it's not about the actual act of being productive, it's about creating that flow. So can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that, like your
Yeah.
methodology behind it? Because I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
and
really
it's
helpful.
interesting because a lot of it is there's so many of the words that even I use, but I'm constantly redefining that are just like embedded in us. So like sometimes I'm like, I need a new language to be able to explain this. But a lot of it starts with really like redefining productivity.
Mhm.
Because if you really think about productivity, if you think about farming, for example, like we were started off talking about rest, like you can't just keep planting plants, like the soil needs to rest. So a lot of it is really understanding like which season you're in, what you really want, and like bringing those things together to plan for that. I think a lot of times what we do is we're planning from all the external noise, what we think we're supposed to be doing, whether we're building a business or like challenging the where we came from or whatever, or just even like opening our phones to Instagram. Like there's so much noise of what we could be doing. And I don't really believe there's a right or wrong way. I think that that's a lot of distraction. Um, that's one piece of it, is just like really being clear on your path and like how you do things. The other thing is as women who are entrepreneurs, oftentimes caregivers, whether it's for kids, even adult kids. I mean, I feel like my adult kids take up more of my energy than my babies
Mhm.
did. So like,
It's
to be
good.
real, it's different, but it's like, it's space.
Yeah.
Um, and like our homes, and we might be in relationships. Some of us end up caregiving for our parents. And then we have these bodies that need our care and attention at a level that we didn't probably, maybe we would have benefited from the care in our 20s and 30s, but like it's like unignorable now, right?
Yeah.
And so
And
we
it's
plan
different.
for all,
It's different.
yeah. And so we plan for all of that. Like all of that is a piece of like growing a business, like because you
Mhm.
can't do any of that in a silo, or you never finish it. So that those are two really important pieces. And then another part that I'll say about the go with the flow, and this was like a really hard lesson for me because I definitely am a like to say I'm a go with the flow person. But what I found is that every time I truly tried to lean into that, it's like weeks would pass by and I wouldn't do the things that I really deep down inside wanted to do. Like I wouldn't grow my business at the level I wanted to. And I realized that it was really for me about alignment. Like, so if I could just make choices that were really in alignment with who I wanted to be as my future self, we end up doing a lot of work about our future
Mm.
selves. So it's almost like our future self is making the decisions and then we're just sort of showing up to them. Um, that has shifted a lot for me because then I look at my plan and I'm like, okay, this is not me like coming from trauma or like scarcity mindset. Like this is my future self who already has arrived in the place and like knows full well that these are the steps I took. Even though they feel a little bit hard today, I can see how they are in alignment with my whole system. And so
Yeah.
there is this bit of like, the whole beginning part, we call it lead with the feminine first, like where the whole beginning part is really more intuitive. But there is a point where the feminine meets the masculine. And I sometimes like to think of it as the masculine is the container, or you can even think of it like a riverbed, but like, so the masculine is the riverbed or the container, and that really allows the feminine to flow.
Mhm.
And so what we're really wanting to do is flow, but we need that container. And so at the end of the day, the container does need to become some understanding of time, but it's coming from such a different perspective that it's just really holding us so that we can freely flow. And
Mhm.
that's how I think about planning.
Yeah, that's I see that speaks to me, but, I think maybe it's because I spent a lot of time working in law firms building out timekeeping systems,
Yes.
and everything in
Yeah.
a law firm is in six-minute increments, and I'm
Yes.
like, "No, I'm not tracking my time ever again. I'm not doing
Yeah,
that."
well, it's funny. So that came up a couple times with clients. So in the end, what we did is we have one version of the planner that people can find that by the time you get to the part. Also, the other thing that I always think about is I always say that, you're figuring out what you want, but eventually you have to anchor it in time. But you never go from like wanting to write a book a year from now and
Mhm,
anchoring that into 15-minute increments. If you
mhm,
want to make a book a year from now, then you just understand like, okay, maybe the winter season is when I write it. Like that's all you
mhm,
need to understand about
mhm,
time. And then as you get into the time, you're like, okay, what's this month? What's this month? What's this month?
mhm,
And then eventually as you're planning your day, you might get into
mhm,
like, half-hour increments, but
Yeah.
never like I think we jumped there too early.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like a piece of the problem. But for people who really are adverse to time, we made a planner that just says morning, afternoon, evening.
Yeah. I can work
So you can just sort of anchor it that way.
The way I handle it is like, this is the stuff that absolutely needs to be done today. These are optional.
Yes, 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 yes. But don't forget, we're also planning for like not only that, we're planning for like close your computer and like walk away. Like that sometimes goes into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, I'm about ready to take my son's room and make an office, so I will have a door,
Ooh,
and that
that's
will help.
exciting.
That will help.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love
That
it.
will help. Okay, we are rounding up now, so I like to end these calls asking for a wisdom bomb, something small and actionable that people can take with them and benefit from your wisdom.
So I think I'm just going to go back to sort of what we already talked about, which is just the pause. So when, overwhelm seeps in, which it will, because we live in an overwhelmed world and most of us are like, we're with other people, whether it's our kids or our parents or our spouse or people we work with who also might be overwhelmed. And then we pick up on there. So if that's ever seeping in, it feels like what we need to do is go check as many things off of our list as possible. But if we just like take a second, and really it's just 30 to 90 seconds. We actually have a shaman in our community who teaches sometimes, and she says that for real, it's like scientifically proven that it can't take longer than 90 seconds to process an emotion. So the most of the most we can be uncomfortable at is 90 seconds. And on the other side of that, it's so clear what we should do, and it's so much easier to focus on it. And so I think that would be my action. Just see if you can pause for 90 seconds. The second just that overwhelm pops in.
Well, that we could all spend 90 seconds doing that.
I
So
know.
if you try that, put it in the comments and tag us and let us know how it works. And in the meantime, you can connect with Mia at it's plansimple.co, isn't it?
No, it's com. It all works. .com. Yep.
Okay.
We're
All right. So
plansimple.co on Instagram.
okay. All right. And connect with her there. And everybody, please send her good vibes for her surgery. And thank you for spending your last few minutes of working prior to that with us. I appreciate it. And I adore you. And I look forward to so many other ways we can collaborate and play together in the future. And we will be back every Wednesday with more interviews. So keep coming back, people.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Mia.